In the absence of any other system, you heard from Mr. Ivanov, who is the fifth in command in Russian Federation after president, prime minister, upper chamber chairman, lower chamber. He's a very high up official. You heard him today. He's a man with experience, and definitely he insisted that United Nations and Security Council is the pillar and the cornerstone of our security system. Having said that, I can tell you that Russia, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, feels secure and very insecure. It feels secure because we have a parity with the United Nations on the nuclear arms, and that's why we think that probably any major aggression cannot be because we have nuclear deterrent. But at the same time, of course, we shrank to ourselves. We don't have too much of allies. We don't have too much of friends in this world. And even inside this customs union or this Eurasian union which we are building up, Kazakhstan and Belarus are very, very insecure allies sometimes, especially Mr. Lukashenko. So that leaves us alone, and that our world shrank to our own territory, which is 1/7 of the world, which is enough, of course, to build up our own security. But we are bordering three supernations, three very major security holders, sort of United States through Alaska, China, which is 1,000 or more kilometers of border, and European Union and NATO. Of course, Carl Bildt yesterday said that NATO and the United States more or less the same thing in terms of security decision-making. Nevertheless, for us, it's three entities for our security. So we started as a new nation by building up some relationship with NATO. We were playing with the idea of more common ground on the issues of security, but it ended up by a lot of mistrust through BMD, through advance of NATO to our borders. You heard many times that Mr. Gorbachev was promised by Mr. Kohl and others that NATO infrastructure will not move towards Russia as soon as we get out of Germany, German Democratic Republic. And they feel, Russian leaders felt that they were deceived, and that was translated many times over to Russian public. And the day before yesterday, when Mr. Shoigu, the Minister of Defense, was asked, NATO is more of ally, a friend, a partner, or what? He said, NATO is against us. Outright, because you have your bases in Baltic states. Against whom? Against us. You advanced your infrastructure to Romania, Bulgaria, and so on and so forth, to Poland, and it's against us. So Russian elite, ruling class, is under the impression that NATO is pretty hostile. United States is not a friend anymore after all what happened after Putin's comeback. So we're pushed into the embrace of China. But again, China is a very unreliable partner because not because the leadership of China is hostile to us. On the political level, the decision of the Chinese Communist Party is that Russia is a strategic ally. But as a radiation, they penetrate our Far East, and nothing can be done about this, actually. So people realize that, and the latest opinion poll in Russian Federation showed, when the question was put in a way, more or less directly, what are you afraid of in the world? So 15% said China is a threat. Only 5% said the United States is a threat. 4% said Western Europe is a threat. So that gives you an idea how people out in the street feel about all these arrangements. So in this situation, again, priority-wise, Russian elite and analytical minds in the key offices would think that United Nations Security Council and the United Nations system, until we change it, is #1 pillar of our security and international security. #2 factor is the United States hard and soft power plus NATO. #3 would be China, and we sort of balance around this. plus different regional arrangements. In this situation, and being alone and feeling insecure, and this insecurity sometimes is covered up like any adolescent, and we're only 20 years old in this new setup, is covered up by arrogance and sometimes rudeness. So that's why sometimes, not being rude inside of our heart, we sort of bark at the outside world in a manner which sometimes wouldn't be appreciated. But this insecurity, arrogance, the best outcome would be something which was put by Mr. Lavrov, our Minister of Foreign Affairs, in an elegant phrase that Russia could be a balancing force. From this point of view, they pursue this policy of trying to navigate through all these three pillars around our borders, and on the international issues, no military involvement, no serious relocation of forces, but something like Syria gave us a chance. All of a sudden to stage a comeback and to say we still matter, number one. Number two, we still have some allies, and in some situation we can be a balancing force. And if we play this card well, if we don't use too much of an arrogance, and if we don't miss a chance, that would be very interesting historical chance. If we do lose it, then we're in a very difficult situation, because during this conference, a number of times, a lot of very knowledgeable people mentioned Trans-Pacific Partnership and Transatlantic Partnership. Of course, it's trade and investment partnerships, but crusaders came after merchants. Military will come to protect commercial lines. China does exactly that by building up nuclear submarine fleet, aircraft carriers, to protect the line of their communication. So if we're squeezed by two rings of fire, transatlantic and trans-Pacific partnerships, which would demolish WTO, for which we were negotiating entry for 18 years, then we will be in a very difficult situation. We have to find a way out. So my answer is that indigenous and sustainable development of Russian Federation will be under big question mark. We have to find alliances. My natural answer would be Euro-Atlanticism, because we are from the Judeo-Christian origin. We are having the same Bible as you guys. I mean, the guys in Euro-Atlanticism. But, of course, Russia is so big that Asian angle, Chinese friends, our soft underbelly for the South, our very considerable Muslim population wouldn't make our solutions easy. So Russia, again, is a riddle wrapped up in an enigma, and we keep carrying, you know, we are sort of a bumblebee. It cannot fly, but in some very funny way we fly, and fly well.